So this picture represents a company that's got two features. Let's say account management and auction listings. And those features are going to be pulled into existing infrastructure, and these features are going to be written in Flutter. So that's the orange stuff. Account management and bid control, or bid, I don't know. Anyway, so the way this works, typically when you create your first Flutter thing, you create an app and you put a bunch of code in it, and that works. Yay. The reality is you almost always are going to end up doing a feature app breakdown, right? And the reason is you may want to embed that package, the feature package, in multiple runtimes, right? Multiple places. And this gives you the opportunity to do it. I'm going to describe this a little bit. So a feature package, like I said, would be like account management or bid control. Utility packages would be reusable. They might be like authentication and credentials and metrics and all kinds of other stuff, right? So if we think about these packages, right? If a package is a piece of isolated functionality that you can drop into an existing app and it's run as a main, so it's essentially standalone, the only thing you've got to do is figure out how to bootstrap it, how to pass it its initial startup information, and kind of what information it's got to pass back when it's done. And it's a little more complicated than that, and I know that. All right. So what we do is, like I said, we have these feature packages. The feature packages are basically pulled into a mobile module, something defined as a mobile module, and they're registered with entry points in the main. So it's going to be a main calling a main. The mobile module gets loaded, and then it calls these functions, which are really mains on any of these feature packages, and they're run kind of like standalone apps. The mobile module then gets pulled into the Android and the iOS builds, and we're assuming you have an existing app, and it's going to be pulled in as a library, and you know how to make that happen. And then the native apps kind of get updated so that they can pass information to these loaded packages, usually over message channels or through one of the other inter-process communication mechanisms, or like inter-layer communications. And so you have that kind of little spin up, like I've seen some where we have to pass credentials from the main app to the module, right? Or it could be something else. I got to pass some scope data so that the thing bootstraps and it knows like what user we're talking about. So that's that, right? Features are isolated. They have their own mains. They get pulled into mobile modules. The mobile module gets pulled into the native apps, and then the native app can run and call those, and then it communicates either by function call or by message. And there's a little bit of bootstrap, maybe handoff with that thing. And especially if you want these to be pretty loosely coupled. I'm going to pretend you want it kind of loosely coupled. If you want it more tightly coupled, you might put code in the mobile module to make that more tightly coupled. And why am I talking like this? Because it turns out a fair amount of time you just want to run, I call it a test jig, but it's really not. So typically when you build your first Flutter app, and you've got this Android and iOS directory, and those let you run build an Android and iOS app. Packages don't have that. So if we want it, we can build standalone programs like, hey, I want to do account management inside our app. You know what? I also, inside the company, would like a standalone account management that's not inside the main app or whatever. Or I just want to test it on our local devices standalone because the app's really big and I don't want to, whatever you're doing. So you can create, and what a lot of times you can do is you can create an app project that sits next to every package. So in this case, in the bottom corner, basically I've got a feature that's handling bid management, and then I've got an app that sits on that, loads that package. And in my case, it, especially in the developer environment, it's just going to pass some fake credentials or fake information so that thing can bootstrap, right? So we could use it as a test jig, or we can set it up because there's actual real Kotlin code or real Swift code or real, oh man, I'm losing it now. Yeah, those are the best two, I guess. And so you can do all kinds of interesting things like there. Like if you got to do handoff of communication, you got to do other stuff, you can kind of put little baby versions of those in the test jigs, and it makes it super, super lightweight to make changes because you don't have to worry about, heavy integration. But some people may not want to do that. They may want to cycle always in their main app. Anyway, so that test jig gives you the ability to bootstrap onto a platform, run it on an emulator or simulator, run it on the phone, all from a developer environment, kind of separated from the main corporate application. And that's really up to you whether you want to work that way. It's about, there's extra overhead of maintaining these apps, but you also have the lower overhead on cycle time for playing with stuff. Hey, I want to change the handoff message. Man, I don't want to do that in the main app. And these apps are pretty simple, so even somebody like me who's neither an Android nor an iOS developer can usually get something shimmed into that. So that's really kind of what you end up with, right? You end up with this kind of plug-in modular architecture for plugging into your existing apps, and then you have the option to create exercisers or standalone programs. They're also nice for Jiffy end-to-end testing. Man, I'm just going to pop it into this app, deploy it on a device, run it a little bit, see what it looks like, and bring it back. That won't give me the same quality of tests that I got by running the main app, but man, the cycle time can be really low. So that's the mobile side of this, 6 minutes. Whew. So that's it. If you have any questions, post them in the channel. Have a great day.